There's a character coming in patch 1.3, and their arrival is about to mess some stuff up. Not only are they somewhat of a messiah to free-to-play players, but they're also introducing a new standard to be expected from characters following. Their introduction will not only be detrimental to the game's health, I believe, but will also warp core gameplay mechanics as we know it.
Nice.
Also, disclaimer, every assumption I'm about to make about this character came to me through my dreams. So, on release, this may not match what they actually do, but it should be pretty damn close. Now that the Hoyoverse leak hunt decree is off my ass, let's get into it. So, ever since the game's release, Hoyoverse's game direction has hinted that most characters, despite their rarity, will not only be competent, but also excel at their given trait/niche. They even took it a step further by adding definitive gameplay classes in the game. We have the Destruction archetype, which is somewhat of a bruiser archetype, right? Which can deal just as much damage as is dished out to them. We have the Hunt. They're a lot more frail, but are the premier single target nukers of the game. Literally just a giant middle finger to one enemy. Next, we have the Erudition, which feels more inclined to share their harm instead of working through their past traumas. They damage everyone around them, and they're the premier AoE, or multi-target takedown. Then you have Preservation, marketed as the himbo meathead of the game, where they have taunts and other abilities that help protect fragile allies around them. Then there's Harmony, the cheerleaders, the premier buffers of the game, giving you an offensive boost to carry out and improve the things your character is already good at. Nihility, they specialize in debuffing enemies, making their lives unbearable, akin to like Twitter users, X users, so they're not as effective and they're weak, frail human beings. The last class, Abundance, which they heal and cleanse you. That's it. To most, this wouldn't seem like much of an issue, but let's just say that most characters in this game don't really play by the rules when it comes to sticking to their path. For example, Zila, a hunt character that not only excels in single target damage, also does AoE due to her reset mechanic. Or her wife, Bronya, who gives you an array of buffs to push your allies to new heights, but in case moving ever became an issue, she also has a cleanse, which not only allows them to act again, but puts your ally at the top of the priority list. And, of course, some of you might say, I can see it already, well, these are 5-star characters. Their exclusivity warrants them being more powerful. And to that, I agree. Mostly. They should be allowed to bleed the lines, right? If that's what Hoyoverse wants them to do.
That's what makes it special!
But that's also why I think Lynx, the new healer that's come to Starrail, is such a problem.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
I've seen a world where everyone's super. And when everyone's super... Remember when I said just a second ago, Hoyoverse Games Direction hinted at characters having specific niches? And that Abundance characters' defining trait is that they heal and cleanse you? Well, that was a lie. The in-game text literally says the only defining trait for Abundance characters is their healing, and that extra utility isn't locked to the Abundance tree. So that feature is kinda up in the air. When most people probably think of Abundance, or healers or supports, they're probably associated with being cleansed, but that doesn't seem to be the case for Hoyoverse. There are also plenty of characters that have sustain in their kits, even light cones that can heal the user a considerable amount. And I think you guys are getting what I'm hinting at. It's gonna suck real bad when your only defining trait is being treated like a second-class citizen. The next 4-star healer, I believe, came to me in a dream, will have an effect res boost, taunt manipulation, and an HP increase on her kit. Now, if you squint and look somewhat hard at some of those attributes, something ain't adding up. These are properties taken from the Preservation and Harmony tree. And now we're getting into that murky territory, because this means that for an Abundance character to have value going forward, they need to be a jack of all trades. And now with the release of Lynx, an Abundance character such as Locha isn't as crazily overloaded as I thought he was. I thought he was crazy because he was a 5-star. But in reality, it's because he's an abundance character. And all the things on his kit are actually necessities to be valuable. And listen, before the deranged come out of the woodworks and put pikes up my ass for dissing their waifus, I'm not saying any of these characters are bad. I'm saying it feels a little too soon to have characters this strong in multiple areas, as it leads to less diversification and it becomes harder to pique players' interest. Civil is a great example of the design choices I wish to continue to make going forward. Her design and kit are powerful without a doubt, but with great power comes great responsibility. There are caveats to her skills. Consider the 2-factor authentication you have to go through just to get the right element from her, while also confining her to being a single target debuffer. Meaning you also have to consider which target's kneecaps you want to take out, while also being Starrailed by the other enemies. It makes for not only interactive gameplay, but interesting team building as well, because there are now scenarios where I would rather have the consistent AoE debuffing of Pela over Civil's skill. Civil's skill is her defining trait, which stays within the archetype of her class. Her ultimate enhances that gameplay fantasy of debuffing enemies, and her bugs, with her res reduction and extra debuffs such as slow and defense drops, is that extra 5-star spice that keeps things interesting. I'm all for strong characters, but can we at least wait a year or two before everyone becomes the freaking Terminator? Or even worse, Bennett? Am I overreacting? Or do you feel the same way? Do you think characters need to be toned down? Or are you just like, just let him cook, bro. Make every character more ridiculous than, I don't know, DC Comics or something like that. Or do you think Abundance just needs a buff? Tell me in the comments below. That's all for today from words are hard. That's all from me today. I sound like I'm giving a freaking I sound like I'm giving a presentation. That's all from me today. So, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.